An elderly man enters a luxury car dealership, only to be dismissed and mistreated by the staff, who mock him and even splatter ketchup on his shirt. Unbeknownst to them, his true identity is far more significant than they could ever imagine. Watch as the story unfolds and the staff faces the consequences of their actions. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. The sun was dipping low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the bustling city street as Mr. Charles Graham stepped out of his nondescript sedan. Dressed in a simple white shirt and a pair of comfortable khaki pants, he walked with a gentle gait towards the gleaming glass doors of the luxury car dealership. A cool breeze ruffled his silver hair, and he took a moment to appreciate the rows of shiny vehicles that lined the sidewalk, reflecting the vibrant life of the city around them. Inside the showroom, the staff were a picture of professionalism, sharply dressed in crisp suits and skirts. They moved with practiced grace, eager to pounce on potential buyers with their sales pitches. However, when the elderly man entered, their eyes slid over him with a mix of disinterest and dismissal. They had seen many like him before, casually dressed, probably just window shopping, certainly not someone to waste their time on. They continued to chat among themselves, paying him no heed. Mr. Graham took his time, walking slowly through the rows of cars, running his hands over the cool, sleek surfaces. Despite his age, there was a sharpness in his gaze that suggested he knew exactly what he was looking for. However, the staff remained aloof, whispering among themselves and occasionally glancing his way, their smirks speaking volumes about their assumptions. Finally, the youngest salesman, bored and looking for a bit of amusement, sauntered over. "Can I help you with anything, sir?" he asked, his tone condescending. Mr. Graham looked up, meeting his gaze evenly. "I'm just looking," he replied mildly. "But I wouldn't mind taking one of these beauties for a test drive." The salesman's smile tightened. "Of course, sir," he said, gesturing to a row of gleaming sports cars. "Which one catches your eye?" Mr. Graham's gaze fell upon a stunning black convertible. "That one," he said, pointing. "It looks like it could tell some stories." The salesman's eyes narrowed. "I'm sorry, sir, but I'm not sure that's a good fit for you. How about something more practical?" Mr. Graham's smile never wavered. "I'll decide what's practical for me, young man. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to sit in the car." The salesman's cheeks flushed. "I'm afraid you'll need to be a serious buyer to do that, sir," he said, his voice taking on a harder edge. "And frankly, you don't look like you could afford the cleaning fee if you make a mess." The air grew tense as the other staff members looked over, sensing conflict. Mr. Graham's eyes flashed, but his voice remained calm. "I assure you, I am quite capable of taking care of myself." The salesman scoffed. "Fine. But if you don't leave a hefty deposit, you can't even sit in it. And you're definitely not driving it out of here." Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. Ignoring the jibe, Mr. Graham made his way to the convertible, his back straight with dignity. He settled into the plush leather seat, his eyes lighting up as he took in the dashboard. It was clear that the car was not just a possession to him, but a symbol of something much more. The staff's laughter echoed through the showroom, a cacophony of mockery as they gathered around the old man, their eyes gleaming with a mix of amusement and contempt. Mr. Graham stood there, his frail figure dwarfed by the surrounding crowd, feeling the weight of their disdain. "Look at him," shouted a tall, lanky man with a smirk plastered across his face. "What's he going to do, ask for a raise? Maybe he thinks he's still got some fight left in him," another chimed in, causing a ripple of laughter among the group. Suddenly, a burly man with a cruel glint in his eye stepped forward, a bucket of water sloshing in one hand and a mop in the other. "Here you go," he sneered, thrusting the mop into Mr. Graham's hands with a force that nearly knocked him off balance. "If you want to sit in that car, you'll have to earn it. Start cleaning up the showroom." "Yeah, clean up, old man," one of the staff jeered, his voice dripping with mockery. "That's maybe the best you can be." The room erupted with jeering laughter, each taunt cutting deeper than the last. "Look at him. "He can't even stand up for himself," someone shouted, and the laughter grew louder, filling the air with a cruel energy. Mr. Graham felt the gravity of the situation settle heavily on his shoulders. Instead of anger, however, his expression shifted to one of quiet resignation. The mop handle felt heavier than it had any right to be, and he gripped it tightly, forcing himself to move. As he began to clean the gleaming floor, the mocking voices continued to surround him. "You're pathetic," one of the staff called out, a triumphant sneer on his face. "What a useless old man." Mr. Graham's heart sank, but he didn't respond. He simply continued to mop, each stroke a silent acceptance of his fate. The laughter and jeers echoed in his ears, but he focused on the floor, trying to block out the noise. It was as if the mop had become a lifeline, a way to escape the reality of his situation, even if just for a moment. The staff's laughter grew louder as they watched Mr. Graham, their mockery echoing through the showroom like a cruel symphony. One of them, unable to resist the spectacle, dashed away and returned with a bottle of ketchup, a wicked grin plastered across his face. "Look what I've got," he shouted, holding the bottle aloft. "I'm going to splatter this ketchup on your shirt if you don't leave right now. You're wasting our time, and you know we serve the rich and mighty in this place. You're not even on the list of the less fortunate. So please, on the count of 3, I want you to leave." Mr. Graham stood frozen, his heart racing. I'm just trying to. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. 1. The man interrupted, his voice dripping with mock authority. 2. When Mr. Graham failed to move, the man squeezed the bottle with a triumphant grin, a dark red stream splattering onto Mr. Graham's pristine white shirt. "Splatter more," shouted another staff member, laughter erupting around them. "What the hell?" Mr. Graham exclaimed, jumping back in shock, his eyes wide as he stared at the ketchup now staining his shirt. "Oh, I'm sorry," the man said, feigning innocence but not sounding sorry at all. "It's just that you look so pathetic. It's a good thing you're not actually trying to buy anything here. You're obviously useless and poor. So just leave now." The others cackled at his words, their laughter ringing in Mr. Graham's ears like a taunt. His face flushed with indignation as he looked down at the ketchup stain, feeling a surge of humiliation wash over him. But instead of letting it show, he took a deep breath, his expression smoothing into one of calm determination. Setting the mop aside, he straightened his back and stared defiantly at the group of jeering employees. "You may think you can humiliate me," he said, his voice steady, "but I won't let you win. I'm here for a reason, and you'll find out very soon." The laughter faltered for a moment, surprise flickering across their faces, but the burly man quickly recovered, a sneer returning. "Oh, look at him. Trying to act tough now. You really think anyone cares about your little speech?" Mr. Graham stood firm, locking eyes with each of them in turn. "You can laugh all you want, but I'm not going anywhere. Frankly, I'm here to stay." "Pathetic," someone shouted, but Mr. Graham stood firm, refusing to let their words affect him. "You say you're here to stay? Well, this isn't your home. Just walk your tired body out of our business and go cry yourself to sleep, old man. Leave now, or I'll make you." "I've had enough of this," he said, his voice steady. "I've been treated with less respect in a fast food restaurant. I'm going to leave now, but I assure you, this will not be forgotten." The staff, fueled by their sense of superiority, laughed even louder. "Good riddance," the burly man spat, a sneer twisting his lips. "We don't need your kind here, and we don't care if you remember this for the rest of your life." Mr. Graham nodded, his eyes cold. He turned and walked out of the showroom, the glass doors chiming sweetly as they closed behind him. His dignity remained intact despite the sticky mess on his shirt. The next day, the dealership staff were called into an unscheduled meeting in the boardroom. They filed in, their usual smiles and chatter replaced with nervous glances. The room was eerily quiet, the tension palpable as they took their seats, wondering what could possibly warrant such an assembly. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. To their astonishment, Mr. Graham sat at the head of the table, the very same white shirt from the previous day neatly pressed and the ketchup stain a stark reminder of their actions. Their laughter had turned to gasps and murmurs as they realized the gravity of their mistake. The air was thick with dread as they waited for his opening words. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice calm and measured. "I wanted to discuss something rather serious with you." He paused, letting his gaze sweep over each of them, his eyes lingering on the salesman who had splattered his shirt. He squirmed uncomfortably under his scrutiny. "Allow me to introduce myself, as you may not know," Mr. Graham said, his voice steady. "I own this dealership. I expect my employees to treat every single person who walks through those doors with respect, regardless of their attire or assumed net worth." The color drained from the faces of the staff as the realization hit them. They had underestimated this gentle old man, and now they were facing the consequences. "I decided to pay an impromptu visit to my business, especially at this time when my designated manager requested me to be away due to family issues. I disguised myself as a poor man to understand how you treat our customers. What I witnessed, what you made me endure, should and must not happen to anyone else. You have all failed in this regard," Mr. Graham continued, his voice unwavering. "And as such, I'm afraid your services are no longer required." Panic set in as they grasped the gravity of his words. They began to protest, to apologize, to plead for their jobs. "Please forgive us," they cried. "We promise to treat everyone with decorum. Please, forgive us." But it was too late. The damage had been done, and Mr. Graham was not one for second chances. "So, I want you to leave my business right now," Mr. Graham said firmly, his gaze unwavering. "I'll have my security escort you out." The staff exchanged glances, their faces flushed with shame and regret. One of them muttered, "I can't believe this is happening. We really messed up." As they shuffled toward the exit, the weight of their actions hung heavy in the air. "We should have treated him better," another whispered, shaking his head. "This is all our fault." "Yeah, I never thought he'd be the owner," a third added, his voice barely above a whisper. "What were we thinking?" They walked out, heads down, feeling the sting of their mistakes. The realization that they were now unemployed hit them hard, and the murmurs continued as they left the dealership. "I wish we could go back and change how we acted," one lamented. "Maybe if we had just shown him some respect." "Too late for that now," another replied, the regret evident in his tone. "We'll have to start looking for new jobs, and it's all because we couldn't see past our own arrogance." Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. As for Mr. Graham, he took his time in selecting the right candidates to represent his business. He conducted interviews personally, looking not just at their sales records but also at their character. He wanted individuals who genuinely loved cars and knew how to treat people with dignity, regardless of their background. The following week, the luxury car dealership saw a complete overhaul of staff. The once snobbish employees were replaced with a team that knew the value of kindness and respect. Meanwhile, the former workers found themselves jobless, their reputations tarnished by their own arrogance and cruelty. They had learned the hard way that one should never judge a book by its cover, especially when it comes to the man who signs their paychecks. One sunny afternoon, a young couple with a toddler in tow walked into the newly revamped showroom. The staff greeted them with warm smiles and offered to help with the stroller. Mr. Graham watched from his office, his heart swelling with pride. His business was not just about selling luxury vehicles, it was about creating an environment where everyone felt welcome and valued. The couple walked out later that day, the keys to a brand new sedan in their hands. They had chosen a modest model, but their joy was evident as they thanked the staff profusely for their patience and guidance. Mr. Graham stepped out to congratulate them, his eyes gleaming as he watched the toddler clap in excitement. It was moments like these that made him realize that his ordeal had been a blessing in disguise. The story of the elderly man who taught the snobbish staff a lesson spread like wildfire in the business community. It served as a powerful reminder that every customer deserves respect, regardless of their age or attire. The dealership's reputation grew stronger, and with it, so did its customer base. The new staff thrived under Mr. Graham's leadership, eager to make him proud and ensure that his vision of a welcoming, inclusive environment was upheld. The lessons learned that fateful day stayed with everyone involved. The old man had not only stood up for himself, but had also inspired a change in the way the dealership operated. The employees who had once thought themselves above the very people they served now knew the true cost of their prejudice. And as the business continued to flourish, the memory of the ketchup-stained shirt served as a silent reminder to treat everyone with the dignity they deserve. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to help our channel grow.